Well, we get to start our Global Focus morning by hearing from Cindy from Pregnancy Helpline. Come on up, Cindy. Pregnancy Helpline is right outside those doors, and many of you volunteer already through Pregnancy Helpline. They have been one of our Global Focus partners since the beginning, and so let's just welcome Cindy as she's here. We're excited to hear from you.
Good morning. I feel very honored to be able to, was asked to speak to you for a few minutes this morning. First thing I'd like to say is a thank you that you take care of our color printing. That is a huge blessing for us. That is, has meant so much. Also, we would like to thank you for the diaper drive. That was a part of your, I believe it was Ignite night with the youth, and the diapers that were brought to us, and that the students came and did work projects for us. We cannot exist without you and without your cooperation and your help in our ministry. I've been a volunteer at Pregnancy Helpline for about 7 months and have learned what large needs there are in our community. We have so many hurting women and men in this community. And they have a lot of physical needs that we try and meet, and those are important as they're trying to support their families. But they also have many emotional needs. Some are due to past and present traumas, things that have been done to them, or decisions that they have made. But no matter why, we need to be able to meet them and care for them and love them. Ultimately, we want to bring Jesus to them. But before we can do that, we have to build relationships with them so that they trust us. They need for someone to care and to show that they care and to be there for them and to see them where they're at. To do that, we need volunteers in all areas of our ministry: reception, office workers, client advocates, staff training, clothing workers, janitorial services, outreach activities, social media, advertising, ways to get our name out into our community, technology, just to name a few. And then there's some more specific. We are in need of 1 or 2 nurses that we can train for ultrasounds, and men to be a part of our fatherhood mentoring program, Spanish-speaking volunteers, or those who are willing to be a call away for interpreting for us, and those that are anyone who's interested in being on our board. I would like to share a few statistics with you, which I know can be really boring, but it also gives you an idea of how things are going in our ministry. Our boutique is where everything gently used is donated to us. Those things are given to our clients for free. We accept donations of baby clothes and children's clothing from newborn to size 5 or 6. Clothing, shoes, socks, blankets, PJs, sleepers, toys, plus any kind of baby gear, anything that's to do with babies and small children. We have given out 1,196 bags of clothing this year. We have given out 32 bags of maternity clothing. We can always use diapers, especially sizes 3 to 7. We gave out 1,913 dozen diapers this last year. We also gave out 430 cans of formula and 219 baby foods. We saw 197 new clients this last year. We had 1,387 client visits this last year. There were 153 pregnancy tests, 206 ultrasounds done. We believe this increase is due in part to the lack of prenatal care now in the Sturgis area, and also because of the inflation that we've experienced. And we believe that those numbers will increase this year. It's very difficult for parents who are trying to do housing, utilities, transportation, and food to be able to afford things that they need for their small children, especially, we all know diapers are extremely expensive, formula, those things. So anything that we can do to help is what we want to be there to meet those physical needs so that the parents can also be able to be the parents that they want to be to their children. One way we connect with our clients is through our Bright Course lessons. They watch videos and do homework to earn points that can be used toward new items that they choose. There are over 250 lesson videos on a variety of topics, such as pregnancy and birth, milestones for infants and toddlers, parenting skills, life skills, Bible studies, and more. Our clients have watched over 778 videos this year. We have a burden for our clients and them coming to know Jesus. Most of our clients do not attend church and do not know the Lord. How we would love to see our area churches partner with us in encouraging our clients to come to church, where they can know Jesus and can have a void filled in their lives with friendships and caring, godly people. We have all heard that the harvest is great and the workers are few. We all need to know that there are lost, lonely, homeless, abused, needy, unlovable people in our community that we see every day. Our clients need for us to have the burden for their souls. Isn't that what Jesus calls us to do in Matthew 9:37 and 38? Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." We ask you to pray with us for workers and people who want to share their faith with the lost. We do not know the impact of our ministry, but that's okay. God knows, and he has this, and we know anything and everything that we can do, he can make what he wants it to be. I would like to share how my life has changed through volunteering at Pregnancy Helpline. I see people who are good parents, have families, and live fulfilled lives, who want those things in their life. I know from my own experience with abuse, controlling, loneliness, self-destructive thoughts, wanting to be seen and not feel invisible, the searching for something or someone to fill the God-sized hole that we all have. It was not until I gave my life to Jesus in October of 2019 that I knew that there was one who loved me the way I was searching to be loved. This is my heart for all of our clients. The one thing I would like to add also is that in the last month, we know for sure of 2 babies that were saved. These were abortion-minded women who came to us, and we did pregnancy tests, ultrasounds. We talked with them, we prayed with them, we gave them information that we can give them, and then they leave, and a lot of times we don't know. But these women came back for second ultrasounds and said that they are going to keep their babies and parent them. Thank you for allowing me to speak from my heart to you today. And please continue to pray for our ministry, that we continue to allow God to lead us and give us his words and the love for our clients. Thank you.
And so I love the contrast here as we go from our backyard to all the way across the pond, and hearing about Uganda and some things that Ross and Jen have been involved with over there through SMPI Ministries. And I also want to mention, Jen, you can come on up if you want, or maybe you're both coming. I don't know how you plan on doing this. But as Jen's coming, I also want to mention that Evelyn Byler has a table in the hallway with crafts and different things that they have. I think they've made all of them, right? There's a group that have made them, and anything that is bought or purchased or any money that goes towards that goes directly to support families in Uganda. And you may be planning to talk about that a little bit, but I just wanted to mention that that was there as well. So Jen Gerber, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. We just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about SMPI and our history with the church and how God has led us over the years. So Strategic Ministry Partnerships International is an organization that Ross and I started in 2009, and our goal was to provide an opportunity for churches like Grace and businesses and individuals to connect with the ministry in Africa. And so that was our goal. We operate as a missions outreach of this church of Grace Christian Fellowship, Grace Sturgis. So SMPI is ministered mainly in East Africa, Rwanda and Burundi, but mainly in Uganda. And Uganda is just a beautiful country. Winston Churchill once called it the Pearl of Africa because it has such green, lush vegetation. It is truly a beautiful country. In 2006, Ross was introduced to John Maxwell's leadership training course called Million Leader Mandate, or EQUIP. And with the support of the elders here at Grace, he traveled to Uganda with Tyler Redden and met with the in-country coordinator, Johnson Ogema. You'll see his picture up there. Johnson is such a good friend. Johnson invited Ross to join him in ministering and teaching the EQUIP material on that first trip. And then the following spring, I joined Ross, and we went together and traveled around with Johnson Ogema to several cities, kind of learning the ropes, teaching us about Africa, teaching us about Uganda specifically. Those were great years of traveling around with him. Over the years, we've ended up teaching our leadership principles to pastors, ministry leaders, civic leaders, school principals, and hospital staff. And it has been a blessing. We've met so many amazing, wonderful leaders in that endeavor. From 2007 until 2019, Ross and I taught the EQUIP material in Uganda and Rwanda, returning to each location 6 times. So we would go twice a year for 3 years. So 6 times we would go back and see the same people. Sometimes others would be added to the number. And so we got to know them very well. That was wonderful. And we still have friends there that we see that are just dear to our hearts. We always would give out diplomas because diplomas are very important to Ugandans because they don't have the opportunity to really have a diploma or a certificate really for anything in their lives. So they always wanted a diploma. So Jesselyn helped us a great deal by typing out long names with different spellings than we're used to. And once in a while we'd make a mistake and we'd have to come back 6 months later with a new one because it had to be spelled accurately and pass them out. And they love graduations. If they could afford it, we would do the full gown and the caps, and we would always have a nice big cake and just really celebrate with them because graduation from the EQUIP course was very important to them. And after COVID in 2022, when we went back, we changed our format slightly, and now we're doing one-day topical seminars in various locations, which we plan on continuing to do. So in 2007, we visited Kosovo. Kosovo is a very destitute area near the capital city of Kampala in Uganda, and we were struck by the extreme poverty and the lack of adequate housing and opportunities for employment. I think I've told this story many times, so bear with me, but when we had walked through Kosovo and seen the poverty and the difficulty that people were, the circumstances they were living under, we went home to our Airbnb that night, and there came a huge rainstorm, and I mean it really poured, and all I could think about was those kids in those little mud brick homes where the rain floods in some of them, and they have to stand up. Actually, we've heard stories where kids have to stand up during the night because they can't lay down on their little mats. And so I just thought, oh wow, I can't go home and pretend I haven't seen this. I have to do something. And so I went home from that first trip with a real calling in my heart to see what I could do to help them. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But that same trip, we toured Treasured Kids School, which is like a beacon of hope in the community of Kosovo. And we were impressed right away with the teachers. The teachers had such a, really a calling and a desire to speak, to teach the children not only their academics, but to know the Lord. They had such a desire to see a generation raised up of Christian kids and adults who would be able to make a difference in their country of Uganda. And boy, that just struck a chord with us because we were beginning leadership training for the adults as Christian leaders. So we felt really lined up with our purposes with them. And so that began our partnership with what was Deo Ministries and is now Muendo Ministries. So we came home, we brought some profiles back with us, and quickly we had 9 families or singles sign up to sponsor kids. And over the next 10 years, our little program grew to be 170 kids. So 170 kids were off the street and in school and learning about the Lord. And that was very, very rewarding for us to be able to go back and take pictures of them and bring them back here for their sponsors. And then, let's see. Oh, yes. And then Janine Balzo suggested that we should perhaps think about sponsoring teachers as well. So we began a teacher sponsorship program, and we've sponsored 14 teachers ever since 2010 monthly. So that is we're very thankful for that as well, for all of you who are helping with that sponsorship program for the teachers. So after just a few visits to Uganda, we were in love with the country. The top pictures there are of our sponsored daughter, Ruth, and we've been able to watch her grow from about a 10-year-old to now she's in her 20s, and we're supporting her through like a sewing school, a fashion design school, so she can earn a living for herself. So we still are in constant contact with Ruth. And then the worship and the animals, just everything about that country just resonated with our hearts, and we love going back each time. Ross doesn't love the airplane ride, but other than that, we do love going. And then Ozzy and Evelyn Byler. Evelyn's here. Where is she? She's here somewhere. There she is. Excuse me. Evelyn and Ozzy joined us in 2008. And returned several more times before deciding to make Uganda their home for 6 weeks in 2015. Excuse me. Ozzy was such a blessing to the farm operation in so many ways, and Evelyn taught sewing and knitting and other skills to the older girls in the school. The Bylers took 5 trips to Uganda in all, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Yoder family and the Wiki family, who are not here today, traveling to Uganda and staying there for weeks, if not months at a time, and ending up adopting 2 wonderful Ugandan kids who we love having in our church. So we're very happy about that. Over the years, we've taken many people with us to Uganda on teams or individually. The teams minister to children through skits and lessons and songs, as well as we've been able to bless the school with infrastructure projects to help them improve the school and the grounds. In 2018, the staff at Muendo Ministries in Uganda asked us if we would consider hosting their brand new African Children's Choir. And after much prayer and talking with the elders at Grace, we all decided to go ahead and host the Muendo Children's Choir for 6 months. Many of you will remember that. In June of 2019, 24 wonderful Ugandans arrived in Chicago, and the following 6 months were filled. A flurry of travel, performances, rehearsals, great meals here at Grace, amazing host families, and hundreds of hugs. Those kids were so great at giving us hugs, and every time they just ministered to our hearts. And by the end of the tour, the choir had performed 98 times, thanks to my husband's amazing ability to schedule, and with a grand finale performance filling the Sturgis Young Auditorium. They told us this was the first time in many years that the auditorium was full, every seat taken. So that was wonderful. So it was an incredible 6 months, and by the end of it, we had over 300 new sponsors in addition to the 170 we already had, and that was a huge answer to prayer. Sponsorships give hope to these kids who have known nothing but poverty and need, and we are so blessed, and I mean that, we are so blessed to be a part of the plan that God has for these sweet kids. We have so many wonderful sponsors here at Grace and across many other states. And if you feel God tugging at your heart to be a life changer for one of these kids, please come and see us at our table in the mall, and we'd love to chat with you. And now we're going to see a short video of our last trip to Africa, and I think you'll enjoy it.
What, another male, or is that a female?
That's a female. We're all right. We're all right. They're just. This is how we ended up in a herd of elephants, right like this type of situation. Yeah. Take it out of backup. Yeah, take it out of your reverse. So, oh, you just want it ready to go. I got you.
So the mother is very protective of the...
Yeah, yeah. That is incredible.
It is indeed.
Oh my word.
How many do you think there are in this herd?
It looks like there might be a male back there.
These I think are more females.
He's got water on him. He must have
Yeah, there is a pond somewhere maybe. So they are moving to the water. So when you go for the boat cruise,
Yeah.
you'll see many. Oh,
There's more.
I want to talk with you about a God who is always preparing for us, for you, for me. You know, God knows what's going on in your life. And I'm amazed at how he prepares for us. You know, my mother died 2 years ago. She was 97. It was a glorious homegoing. And, you know, we would drive with her, and she still drove a car, by the way. She did it safely, I might add. But she would, you know, we'd come up to one of the things that I do is, I'm just made this way, I think ahead. And some people don't. So whenever we're coming back to our house here in Sturgis, I usually pick up the garage door opener, because I'm just ready to open the garage door. And every time I'd be driving with my mother in the car at her home, she'd always get that garage door opener before I did. Every time we were getting to the place, she'd be picking that up ahead, and I saw where I get that honestly, coming to who I am. But you see, it's a preparation thing, and God prepares for you and for me, your life, things ahead, for you. He's looking down, he sees where you are, he knows what's going on in your life, and he prepares for you. I was reading the scriptures earlier this year, and I you know how you read through the scriptures all the time, and then you see something new that you never saw before? What amazing it is. And I had seen this, but it never struck me like it did this year. In Numbers chapter 10, it talks about the tabernacle in the wilderness. And you're familiar with the tabernacle in the wilderness, right? That's just sort of a thoughtful, maybe, picture of it or whatever. They didn't have cameras back then, so they couldn't really get a real picture. But the tabernacle in the wilderness was the place where they camped. God, the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle was in the center of the camp. All the tribes camped around there, and the Levites and the priests camped closest to the tabernacle. But the thing that always amazed me is when they got up to move. Can you imagine just going through the wilderness with like 6 million people? I mean, if you just think about that for a minute, what kind of a feat was that to move 6,000 people from place to place? And the thing was, you didn't know how long you were going to be walking. You know, whenever the pillar of cloud left, the pillar of fire left, they had to tear down the camp, tear down all their tents, carry them to where they were going, and if it stopped in a day, they set it up, stayed there maybe a day, then went again, or maybe a week or 10 days or however long. So moving this tabernacle and all the tents was a real issue, and I saw this in Numbers 10, verse 17. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Numbers 10, verse 17 here. Then the tabernacle was taken down, and the sons of Gershon and sons of Merari set out carrying the tabernacle. You know, if you look at the next, this slide here, you see the tribes, how they camped. 3 tribes to the east, south, west, and north. And then around the tabernacle of meeting, or the tabernacle, were the priests and the Levites. And the Levites, the sons of Gershon and Merari, their task was to take down the tabernacle and carry all the boards and all of the sockets and the altar and all that type of thing and take it ahead. And then, so the tribes on the east left first. Then Merari and Gershon took down the tabernacle of meeting, and they left. and then the tribes on the south left, and then the tribes, let's see now, doesn't really matter what order, but later the Kohathites, the other Levites, they picked up the Ark of the Covenant, the holy things, and the tent, the actual tabernacle itself. And there. And it says this, then the tabernacle was taken down, and they went ahead, thank you, and the sons of Gershon, sons of Merari, set out carrying the tabernacle. And then it says, then the Kohathites set out carrying the holy things, and this is the phrase that hit me. The tabernacle would be prepared for when the holy things came. God is always preparing the way. He sent a portion of the Levites ahead because they were going to be setting up the place where the holy things came and were put into. When every time this group moved, 6 million people, certain number of Levites took the outside boards, everything, set it up so that by the time the holy things got there, it was ready to be placed in the tabernacle. You see, it just jumped off the page to me. God is a God who prepares things. And he does that in your life. You have to see that. You have to know. Let's go to the next slide here. So he's always preparing the way for you, even though we don't think it, and it becomes a frustration to us, like those elephants there. We were supposed to get into the park an hour beforehand, but we were delayed because they didn't like the paperwork and wanted to check it out, so we had to go back, and that delayed us to get to the park. But if we wouldn't have been delayed, we wouldn't have seen that incredible scene of all those elephants crossing the road in front of it. And I want to encourage you that in your life, you're going to have frustration. Does anybody know what I mean? That's silly. I know you do. You're going to have frustration. But if we can look at things and realize that God is preparing, you never know what he's going to do for you because of that delay. I've got stories that I could just take way more time than I have to tell you about. In just this last trip in Africa that God did with us. And I'm just saying, every time it was a frustration for me. I was frustrated because the tire rack on the van kept falling down, the spare tire rack. And we had to tie it up. We were in Sunday clothes when it happened once. We had to tie it up. Thank goodness God always sent somebody along to do that work for us. But it was a frustration for us. And then in the end, several days later, you see what happens and you see what God's doing in the middle of it. The Lord is a God of preparation. He's preparing for you every step of the way. He knows where you're going. He knows what you're doing. And he is making things ready for you. And it's a blessing to watch what he does. Now, I'm going to give you some stories in the scriptures that you're completely familiar with that just shows this situation. How about, anybody know the story of Jonah? Of course you know the story of Jonah. Jonah ran from God. And the sea was raging. And they threw Jonah overboard. And what happened? Whether you believe it or not, it did happen. There's no video of it. But Jonah was thrown overboard, and God had prepared a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. How does that happen that a fish, a very large fish comes along and swallows Jonah? It's God preparing the way. He knew where Jonah was, even though he was running away from God. God knew where he was, and he prepared a fish to swallow him. Then later in that chapter, when Jonah got his head on straight and went to Nineveh to do the preaching that God wanted him to, it was really hot, and the people repented. Jonah was upset at that because he knew that, you see, in the Old Testament, a prophet is known to be true if the words come to happen. And so here Jonah was prophesying, yet 40 days and Nineveh is going to be destroyed. And then they repented and God relented, which is good. But Jonah was upset. So he went out in the hill and God put forth a plant. He prepared a plant to protect Jonah from the hot sun. Then the plant died and You can read the rest of the story in Jonah. There's only 4 chapters. Do it. Then you got another situation in the New Testament. Peter and Jesus, they're talking, and Jesus, they talk about paying the temple tax. How are you going to pay the temple tax? Are you not going to pay the temple tax? They were asked. And Jesus said to Peter, go down to the shore, catch a fish, and in the mouth it'll have a coin in its mouth. Take that and pay the temple tax. How many of you have caught a fish with a coin in its mouth? I don't know anybody who has. But the point being, had Peter said, you're a little crazy, Jesus. I don't think I want to do that. If he had done that, he would have missed the fish that had the coin in the mouth. He was obedient, followed what Jesus said, and God blessed him with the miracle. Catching a fish with a coin in its mouth is not an ordinary thing to happen. So again, God prepared the fish in the instant and in the season to exactly take care of what needed to happen at that time. Then you've got the story of Elijah. Elijah had just got done having his encounter with the prophets of Baal, had the big encounter where God poured out fire from heaven, burned up the sacrifices. You know the story. But after that, Jezebel was not very happy with things and said, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to make you like the prophets of Baal, and I'm going to do that by tomorrow. So Elijah starts running away, and he gets out into the place. God says, go by the brook Cherith and stay there because there's a drought that's going to happen. And I'm going to feed you. I'm going to give you water from the river. And God says, I'm going to feed you with the ravens. Now, I've never been fed by ravens or birds, but God prepared ravens to take care of them, of Elijah, in that moment and in that day. And he made a plan, and he sent ravens. Now, I always stop at this point and I say, you know what? How strong is your faith? Can you all agree that we probably need to strengthen our faith more and more and more all the time? Just need to strengthen our faith. I believe if it's necessary, God will feed you with ravens. I believe he will find a way to meet your need. And I tell you, when I preach this in Africa, there are a lot of people over there who are dealing with sustenance issues. People that are starving literally, people that don't have enough literally, people who don't know where their next meal's coming from, people who just don't know how things are going to go. And when I said that God will, if he needs to, he'll feed you with the ravens, there was a roar that went up in the church. It's because they understand the reality of that. They understand that they're dependent upon God to provide for them. Then Elijah went off to Zarephath because of the drought. And all these stories are just incredible. And when he comes into the gate of the city, he sees this woman collecting sticks. And he says to her, can you get me a cup of water? So she draws water out and goes and gives him a cup. And then she says, I'm just gathering sticks to cook the last little bread, flour that I have to make a cake so my son and I can eat it and die. And I always was amazed at the audacity of Elijah. Yeah, you can do that, but please make me a little cake first. Always amazes me. Always amazes me when I think. But she did it. She agreed. She did it. She said, okay. She made him a cake, and then she made a cake for her son and herself. And the result was God provided oil and flour for I don't know how long beyond that to sustain them through the drought. You see, God is always preparing for you. He is always preparing for me, and he's always going to be there to meet the need that you might have. Isn't that wonderful? To know that God is taking care of things. Well, you know, another little situation in Africa that we had was this tire thing falling down, and we were going to take this van. We had rented this van. We were going to take it out to 4.5 hours away from the city, and the tire rack fell down, I don't know, the first night we had it, and we had to tie it up. We were out ministering to life groups over there, and so we tied it up. The next morning was church day. It fell down again. Tie it up. Afternoon, fell down again, tie it up. And I said to Jennifer, I said, there's no way we're taking this van out of this city. I don't want that happening where we're going. So we started looking for another van, and we came in touch with a young man named Andrew, who was in the tourism business, who was a tour director and had vans to use. And so we looked at one, and we rented the van, and he came along as a driver, which was a huge answer to prayer. I'm just getting tired of driving on the wrong side of the road over there. And it was really great to have him as a driver. As we went on, we started talking with him, and he became one of our favorite friends over there. He's just a really good guy, and I might just say, we bought a van. We bought him a van for SMPI, and like it's for us, but he's going to use it. We had a vehicle for several years back in 2013, I can't remember, but we never knew what to do with that van when we weren't there. And so we had it parked with friends and let them use it and things like that. But here, Andrew is going to use it in his business, and he's going to pay the van back for us. So he has become a friend. He is going to be the one who always brings us a van, that van that we bought, and he's going to be our driver whenever we go over there now. So what a tremendous blessing. There again, a spare tire rack problem turned into a friendship where we have a van to use for years in advance. And then you know the story. I think maybe some of you weren't here. When we talked back in May, I think we told you the story of the clothes, right? The clothes that we got 3 years ago in 2019 and then couldn't take them with us because of COVID shutting us down from traveling over there. And then how we ran this time into a ministry in Mbarara, the city of Mbarara, that had all these kids. Police had dropped these kids, 42 kids, off to their house, this guy's house. He was a pastor. Said, you take care of them for us, would you please? We'll bring you food and help you to supply for it. And he said, okay. Had these 42 kids in his house from 3 to 10 years old. And then the government came by and said, I'm sorry, COVID's over. We're not giving you any more money for the kids. He said, what would you like me to do with the children? Do you want me to put them back on the streets? And they just shrugged their shoulders and walked away. So how do you put children back on the streets? 3 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old. And this year, and this spring trip in April, we said, we've got a team going with us. Jerry and Janine and a couple other people were going with us. We said, whenever we have a team, we can take more things over. So we said, we can take these clothes that were bought 4 years ago, in 2019, and we'll get them over to a place where God will have a place for it. We didn't know where that place was. Then we ran into Pastor David in Mbarara, heard the story about the children, took the clothes, and gave those clothes to the kids over there. And every one of those children had a brand new shirt or dress on. I should have put the picture up. I'm sorry. Oh, it's there. How did you get that? Nice job. Nice job. So here they are with all their new shirts and dresses, and the smiles on those kids' faces was just amazing. They really wanted us to come to church that day to celebrate with them, and the joy in the house would have been just amazing at that particular time. So you see, God is always doing preparation for us. When you get frustrated, because you will get frustrated, try to think beyond and look to what's going to happen and how God's going to provide for you in it and what he's going to do with that, how he's going to use that frustration and yet make a way and prepare for you in the exact time that you need it. when you get there. God is so good. He loves you so much, and he wants to prepare for you in your life and everything that goes on. God bless you. Thank you very much for a few minutes.
I just want to close. This is kind of our second week of highlighting Global Focus and just some of our different ministry partners. And I don't want to spend a long time on this, but part of Global Focus is financial. It takes money to support ministries, missionaries, go on trips, and do these sort of things. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the financial piece of it, and I don't want to hit it too heavy here, but it is an opportunity for you to give in a special way. We're talking about giving beyond just tithes and this is the offering part of tithes and offerings. This is where you say, God is moving in my heart to give towards something that is making a difference. And so I've got a slide here. It just kind of shows the finances for 2022 in regards to Global Focus and giving. And you'll see there, we had several different ways that we were able to invest Global Focus money through strategic partnerships like SMPI, YFC, Hope United, Pregnancy Helpline, and others. We had local projects and opportunities that come along, encouraging the teachers in the schools, helping some families who were in need, helping some foster parents and some different projects there and some local churches. So those were some local projects and opportunities. We had international mission trips and opportunities. And I had the privilege of being a part of that, traveling to South Asia, to Nepal, and to India. We did some projects in Cuba and some different things there, also Uganda. So there were some international trips and opportunities. And then just missionary support where we're helping people who are planted in other countries who are doing the work of the ministry. People like the Penners in Germany, people like the Johnsons down in the Dominican Republic, Bob Tidd going to Cuba. So that's almost $50,000, $49,000 that we were able to give towards missions last year. And the way that worked was, as a church, we gave $30,000 from our general fund, just in the money that's given because people believe in and are supporting a local church through just regular giving of tithes. And so that was $30,000 of our Global Focus spending. And then $19,000 more is through offerings and generosity. People who say, I want to be a part of giving extra towards missions. And I have that in my heart. And so we have a lot of you already give regularly and give generously for Global Focus. And, there's lots of ways you can give. It doesn't have to be difficult. It could be a 5 Lakes drink a week that you give up, or the equivalent. $5 a week actually goes quite a ways. That's $250 or $260 over the course of a year. Some of you might be evaluating your coffee choices right now as well. But you just think about just that faithful, regular giving. If we have 100 people give up a coffee a week, that's $25,000 that we're giving towards missions, that we're making a difference. So there's ways you can give by like a weekly gift like that. We as a family just give a weekly amount, and it's all tied in through our online banking, and it just happens. And I know every week I'm giving towards Global Focus. And so that's a way that we choose to do it. Some people do a monthly gift, or you could even just do a one-time gift of any amount. And let me just recap what happens when we're giving to Global Focus. When we give to Global Focus, we're helping women and families through crisis situations. When we give to Global Focus, we're sharing the gospel to teenagers, many of them coming from broken homes, many of them maybe hearing for the first time the gospel. When we give to Global Focus, we're helping the poor in Uganda, and we're sharing God's love in distant lands. When we give to Global Focus, we're helping women transition out of prison, and we're helping others in our local area who are in difficult situations. When we give to Global Focus, we're encouraging teachers and school staff. We're helping foster parents and families. When we give to Global Focus, we're training and equipping pastors and leaders in other countries, and we're a part of sharing the gospel in distant lands, even planting churches in other nations. So it's not just giving money. we're releasing hope. And that is a powerful gift. And we're sharing the message of the gospel in our community and throughout the world. So I just want to encourage you and leave you with that as we've spent some time hearing testimonies and stories and being encouraged about Global Focus. I just end with that invitation. Consider how you might give to support Global Focus. And there's a slide there with just different ways how you can give, either just the good old-fashioned cash or check way. You can go online to our newly redone Grace Sturgis website. If you want to check that out, we've just kind of reformatted our Grace website, but on there is a giving tab that you can do online giving. And then, again, my family, we do the online banking thing because there's no fees for that. So every dollar we give through that goes directly to it. The online giving does have a fee. Anyway, I just wanted to share that as we close. But it's been good, hasn't it? I'm really looking forward to next week. We're going on vacation, and we intentionally made sure our vacation was after Inside Out Sunday because that to us is really important. I love the picture of the church leaving the building because so often we say we're going to church, but that's not true. We are the church. We're going to a building to meet together as a church. That's what we're doing this morning. We, the church, are gathered. We're a family. We're a body. We are the gathering of believers coming together to encourage each other, to lift each other up, to praise God and set our hearts on Him. But next week, the church is leaving the building, and we're going to go out in our community. We're going to serve people. We're going to love our neighbors, and we're going to join Jesus on mission. So I hope you guys will join us next week as we do that. You can come a little early for some coffee and some treats. And then at 10 o'clock, we're looking forward to have a little bit of time sharing together, praying together, and then serving our community together. So God bless you. Let me just close us with the word of prayer, and then we'll be dismissed. Father, we thank you. We thank you that you are on a mission. It's not just our mission, it's your mission. We're joining you on this mission of preaching the gospel, making disciples, of loving our neighbor. And Lord, we just thank you that we have the privilege to join you in this, and that it's a partnership. And so, Lord, I pray that you would just encourage our hearts, stir us up, give us a fresh passion and flame for being light in our community, for sharing your love with those around us. Lord, give us a heart for our neighbors, and Lord, give us a heart for the nations. Lord, we want it both. And Father, we just thank you that you're so good and that you're working ahead of us. You're preparing the way. You're doing awesome things in our lives. And because of that, we trust you. And we're so thankful that we don't have to let our hearts be troubled, but we can trust you in all things. And so we praise you and we say thank you, Lord. Amen.